Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a tag video for you. This is the Library Lovers tag. I was not tagged to do this. I saw this video done by Tati, the tiny booktuber. I will link her video down in the description, and I believe it was originally created by Pie and Books, so I'll link that video too. It's quite an old tag, but I really liked the questions in it. So this is the Library Lovers tag, and it's all about using the library, which I love the library. So yeah, when I saw it I thought, you know, I'm just gonna give that tag a go just because I like it. So without any further ado, let's get into the questions. So question 1 is, how often do you visit your local library? I visit at least once a month, sometimes a couple of times a month. It depends on how many books I have on reservation and when they come in, and if that ties in with when I was going to be going to return books or not. So it's usually once a month, but sometimes more often if books I've reserved come in more quickly. So yeah, a couple of times a month generally. Question 2 is, are you the type of person who checks out more books than you know you can read, or are you someone who only checks out the exact amount of books you intend on reading before they are due? That's quite a long question. Basically, yes, I am someone who takes out way more books than they can possibly manage to read in a month. Well, not necessarily more books than I could read in a month, but more books that I could read in a month when I also have a massive owned TBR that I'm trying to get through. So I did impose a limit on myself at the start of the year that I was only going to be allowed to borrow 2 books from the library at a time, and I have already broken that several times. I currently have 6 books out from the library, which is very naughty. Part of the problem is that I request books and they come in more quickly than I'm expecting, so I haven't finished the ones that I currently had out. And then I also seem to have this issue that I seem to have to borrow books in pairs, and I don't quite know why that is, but the other day I went to pick up a book from the library and it was a reservation that had come in, and I just couldn't quite cope with leaving with just one more book. I had to pick up another one so that I always had pairs of books. I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing, I know, and it's weird. But anyway, so at the moment I have out 6, which when I average sort of 8 books a month, it's not too bad. I could actually just sit and read library books all the time, but I have so many other books that I need to try and get through that I just should not really be using the library quite as much as I do. But never mind, that's what it's there for. Question 3 is, how old were you when you got your first library card? I don't really remember. I've just, as long as I can remember, we've used the library. We have a really good library system in our county, so I used that a lot when I grew up. I'm still a member of the county library, but I live in a city that has its own city library system, so I have a library card here as well. And everywhere I've gone, I've always signed up to the library just to try and save my bank balance a little bit by borrowing books from the library rather than buying them if the library has them. Question 4 is, do you go to your library looking for a particular book, or do you check out anything that piques your interest? So generally I will go with books in mind that I want to get out, because generally I go to the library when I've reserved books and those books have come in. So that's sort of most often I'm going to the library to pick up books that I'm reserved. If I'm there and decide that I need to get something else out so that I still have an even number out because I'm weird, I will generally try and look for books that are on I call it my books to find list on Goodreads. So that's my TBR of books that I don't own, as opposed to my want to read list on Goodreads, which is my owned TBR. So I will generally go for books from that list first to try and get that list down a little bit, but there have been times when I've just seen a book and thought, oh, that one looks interesting, I'll give that one a try. Yeah, so generally I have books in mind that I want to get out because they're ones I've requested. Question 5 is, do you use your library to check out just books, or do you also check out DVDs, audiobooks, etc.? I pretty much only check out books at the moment because both the city library and county library charge for taking out other media, and none of them do CDs anymore, which was one thing that I used to. I actually had my first proper job was a library assistant, Saturday assistant, and so I used to love getting out CDs when I worked there, but none of the local libraries do CDs anymore. And films, they generally don't have titles that I'm that interested in, or I can usually find things that I'm more interested in on Netflix, so I just don't really bother with those. My local library, actually, my city, the local branch of the city library, is now doing jigsaw puzzles, which I love. I really enjoyed jigsaw puzzles, so I plan to use that in the future, but actually recently a friend gave me a stack of jigsaw puzzles that she was getting rid of, so I've got to work my way through all of those first. But once I've done all the jigsaw puzzles I own, I'm sure I will make use of the ones that they have in the library, because I just think that's a really fab idea, and I will probably also donate ones that I don't want anymore to them as well. Well, that's my plan anyway. Question 6 is, from what section of your library do you check out the majority of your books? I had a little think about this and I realised that actually the majority of books I borrow from the library are from the teen section, so that's sort of, it's kind of YA, but the library doesn't use the category of YA, so they have teen and teen plus, or like in the county library it used to be 11 up and 14 to 19, but in the city library it's teen and teen plus, and I think actually the county library now uses teen and teen plus. I realised that most of the books I borrow are from teen and teen plus because they're books that I'm less likely to want to buy for myself, because while I enjoy reading YA, it's not always books that I want to reread or keep. So generally I'll try and borrow them from the library first, and then if I really like them I'll try and buy them after I've read them. And that's sort of one of the main reasons I use the library, is for authors that are new authors to me or that I'm not sure about. At the moment it's also because I'm trying to sort of cut down on my book buying a little bit, so I will always try and see if the library has a copy of a book before I go out and buy a copy, because then it's cheaper because I can read it for free then, and then if I like it, it goes on another list on Goodreads of books that I want to buy in the future that I've read, that I've enjoyed, and I want to sort of look out for copies of in the future. So actually, yeah, I would say the majority of books I borrow from the library are teen or teen plus. Although I also do make good use of the fantasy and science fiction section as well, and sort of the general adult section as well. I occasionally use the non-fiction as well, because it's books that I'm less likely to be able to buy, because often non-fiction is more expensive, but generally it's the YA. That's where I get my YA fix from. Question 7 is, what is your favourite part of using your local library? So my favourite thing particularly about the city library, is that you can reserve any book on their catalogue for free. So any book that is within the city library, anywhere in the city, in any branch, you can request it for free on their website, and they ship it to your local branch and you go and pick it up, and it doesn't cost anything. So any book that they own you can borrow for nothing. And this is where it's different from the county library, and this is why I don't use the county library as much anymore, even though the county library is bigger and has a bigger catalogue, bigger collection. If I want to request a book, even within my local branch of the county library, I will pay, and I think it's still less than £1, but I'll have to pay to reserve it, even if it's in the branch that I go to most regularly. So I tend to not bother, and I'll either try and get to the branch where it is and hope that it's still there when I get there, or I'll just like not bother if the city library doesn't have it, because I slightly object to it. Okay, my county is quite big, so some of the books would have to travel quite far, but I don't know, I think some of the council tax should probably go towards funding that so that more people use the libraries, because it's one thing that puts me off from using the county library. Anyway, that's beside the point. And that was a really long explanation, but basically the thing I love most about my city library is that any book that they have within the city I can borrow for free. And that's just amazing, and that's why libraries are brilliant. The other thing I also realised about my local branch that I didn't know until a couple of weeks ago is that they actually have a garden as well, which is lovely, and at some point I will probably make use of it. I haven't done yet because, as I say, I only realised the last time I was there and it was quite a wet, cold day, so it wasn't ideal for sitting outside. But because I don't have a garden myself, if I want to read outdoors, then that is something that I will make use of in the future. So that's all the questions for that tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because I wasn't tagged to do it, but if you enjoy the questions, if you are a library lover like me, please feel free to do the tag and let me know, because I'd love to hear your answers. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!